So Fox News is going crazy over the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago and the recent release of the affidavit in support of it. They're going all out to defend Donald Trump spewing all kinds of BS. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So Fox News is going crazy in their attempt to defend Donald Trump over the inexcusable, the increasing revelations we see again and again and again about how he took top secret documents to his home at Mar-a-Lago. Let's check out one of those videos right now.
Joining me now is Mike Davis, president of the Article 3 Project and former clerk to Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. Mike, does this mean the request for a special master doesn't really matter anymore?
Not at all. So the Biden Justice Department and the FBI has a pretty bad track record as it relates to President Trump. We've seen that they have weaponized, they have politicized law enforcement repeatedly to get Trump. This is...
Okay, let's start with something. Number one, special master. What is that? Well, that's basically somebody who's appointed by the court, supposedly a neutral person, who's supposed to analyze documents, determining whether they need to be kept quiet. Why would things be kept quiet and not shown to the other side? Well, that would be, generally speaking, because of some type of privilege, most commonly the attorney-client privilege. Now, as it turns out, Donald Trump's lawyers took a long time to file their motion asking for the appointment of a special master. The judge has taken it under advisement, essentially considering the arguments. But at the hearing, it did seem like the judge was inclined to grant it. Of course, the judge is a Trump appointee. But in the meantime, the FBI reveals they've already looked at all the documents. So what's the point of trying to appoint a special master to keep them from the FBI looking at them? Seems kind of pointless, doesn't it? What's more is that the basis for their request is not that the attorney-client privilege needs to be protected, something the courts are generally very concerned about, but that the executive privilege needs to be protected. Now, again, you have to remember, the executive privilege is controlled not by the former president of the United States, but by the current president of the United States. That's settled law. And the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, has said that executive privilege doesn't apply. As a result, any legal basis for the appointment of a special master is total BS. And it's really a moot point given the fact that the FBI has already looked at these documents. Finally, I love the fact them talking about the politicization of the FBI. After all, it's not Joe Biden who fired directors of the FBI or attorneys general when they didn't do his bidding. That would be Donald Trump. And just a reminder, Christopher Wray, the current director of the FBI, is a, wait for it, Republican appointed by Donald Trump. Let's watch some more.
This was an unprecedented, unnecessary, unlawful home raid on a former president. The whole legal basis for the raid has been blown apart. They went after Trump. They said he may have violated the Espionage Act.
Actually, what's interesting about this affidavit is it gives a lot of information, a lot of background about the lengths that the archives and the Justice Department went to avoid this raid. They went for months trying to get the president to return these documents. And in fact, at one point, one of his lawyers even certified the fact that he had returned all classified documents, something that the National Archives and the Justice Department later determined was untrue based upon the documents they had in hand, and ultimately found not to be true when they did conduct the search. That lawyer, by the way, should be disbarred, number one, for lying in an affidavit to a court. But what's more is you have to remember, lawyers are representing their clients. They speak on behalf of their clients. So when the lawyer says it, it's the equivalent of Donald Trump saying it. So in other words, Donald Trump was lying about the fact that all the documents had been returned. Let's keep watching.
Not even possible. As the commander-in-chief, he can declassify anything he wants. They say he may have stole or...
Okay, let's just start with something. Number one, the commander-in-chief cannot declassify anything he wants. It's clear that certain kinds of secrets cannot be declassified by the president. Those would include things like nuclear secrets, something that allegedly was included in the documents that were discovered at Mar-a-Lago. What's more is the president can't just imagine in his mind that he's declassifying documents. He needs to say something. He needs to indicate to somebody, I have declassified these documents. Nowhere was that done with any of these documents at issue. So to claim somehow that he declassified them, I mean, he either declassified them when he was president and let people know, which he didn't do, or he declassified them after he was president, which he no longer has the power to do. So which is it now? Let's watch more.
Misuse government property under the Presidential Records Act and other statutes. That's just not possible. There's a 2012 decision by an Obama judge that former presidents can take personal records with them when they leave office.
Yes, personal records. We're not talking about personal records here. We're talking about top secret documents. Documents that are clearly the property of the U.S. government and the type of thing that are secrets that we want to defend. This is comparing apples and oranges. And the fact that we have someone who's a lawyer making this claim on TV, frankly, should lead to discipline, in my opinion. Let's watch more.
So there goes the obstruction allegations. It's legally impossible to obstruct non-crimes like they're trying to investigate here. There's a track record of lying in this case. They leaked out that Attorney General Merrick Garland did not personally approve this raid. That's a lie.
They did not leak that out. That was an allegation made by Trump's people, and then Merrick Garland held a press conference, an unprecedented press conference, to say, no, I did personally approve this document. That was a day later. So who's leaking out that he was involved in this?
Out that Trump had nuclear documents at Mar-a-Lago. That's a lie. They leaked out
that is not a lie. That is still a serious question, and we don't know the answer to that, but there is a lot of information to indicate that he did have nuclear documents on hand. Let's keep watching.
President Biden and the Biden White House did not have a heads up about this raid. That's a lie. President Biden had to waive President Trump's executive.
That's not true at all. President Biden found out about this search at the same time everyone else did, on TV. Might have even been through Fox News, for that matter. This allegation that somehow he waived executive privilege ahead of time for this search. No, he had waived executive privilege a long time before relative to any number of other investigations into Donald Trump's records. Donald Trump has been asserting executive privilege with respect to all kinds of investigations, including the investigation in New York. And Joe Biden said with respect to those documents that he was waiving executive privilege. The clarification that he was also waiving executive privilege for this search came later. Let's keep watching.
Privilege in order to pave the way for this raid. I think Judge Cannon understands that they also, yet Attorney General Merrick Garland said he deliberated for weeks to make this decision. Well, okay, so
now he's saying that Merrick Garland deliberated for weeks, but yet they didn't prove the search. I don't know what they're saying here. Let's keep watching.
Trump had these documents for 18 months. The Attorney General had to deliberate for weeks, and they waited 3 days after they got a warrant from this biased magistrate judge, Bruce Ryan.
Okay, let's start with this. Biased magistrate judge is married to a Republican who is appointed by the Republican governor of Florida. Secondly, Merrick Garland deliberated very carefully on this, given the fact that he tends to be a very cautious person, and he was not going to move unless he was confident that he had the goods, and that this was the only way to proceed. Finally, the reason it took so long for them to act was that they kept stalling. Trump kept stalling the efforts by the Department of Justice and the National Archives to get these documents back. They can't stall and then suddenly claim, oh, the Department of Justice didn't act fast enough. And in fact, one thing that's clear in the affidavit that we get is the lengths to which the Department of Justice and the National Archives went to get back these documents, short of getting a search warrant like this. In fact, there was a subpoena issued to get back these documents, a subpoena that was not complied with by Trump and his lawyers. Let's keep watching.
Who just recused in Trump's civil lawsuit 8 weeks ago, somehow his bias went away. If Trump had such damning records down there, why did they wait so long? Why did they wait to go get these documents?
It's a really good point. But, Mike, here's what a CNN counterterrorism analyst said about the DNI leading a damage assessment on the Trump documents. Watch.
This is a curious one because typically if you're going to do a damage assessment, you know that something bad has already happened. And I don't mean somebody storing documents improperly. I mean, for example, a spy giving away documents to the Russians.
Mike, what do you think about the phrase damage assessment being used here?
They are covering their tracks here because they know that President Trump declassified and took his personal copy of the Crossfire hurricane records, Russian.
Okay, let's just pause here. Number one, as I stated earlier, he didn't declassify these documents. There would be some kind of paper trail documenting that. Number two, it's a damage assessment because there are reports that actually there are certain American secrets that have been compromised, certain kinds of secrets that might have been in these documents. So to look at what documents were there and determine if there is some link between them and certain compromised secrets that have happened, that's a damage assessment. Finally, and I love this is the defense that the Republicans are taking, that Donald Trump took documents with him to Florida that exonerated him in the Russia investigation, the so-called crossfire documents. So on the one hand, they're saying that Donald Trump took these documents that he declassified that were his personal documents that would have exonerated him down to Florida and kept at Mar-a-Lago, and nobody got to see them for 18 months. But yet, don't you think if Donald Trump had documents that would have exonerated him with respect to the Russia investigation, he would have been showing them to everybody? That just doesn't pass the laugh test. Let's keep watching.
Collusion records, and those are damning for the Biden, Obama, Hillary, Clapper, Susan Rice, the FBI, the intel community, and that's what.
I love how they just combine all these different people. It's like the multi-headed boogeymen that they're pointing at. Just keep watching.
Has terrified them, and that's what has precipitated this home raid. And it's unprecedented, it was unnecessary and unlawful, and that's why they did this, and this is a cleanup job.
So, Mike, so what are the next steps now for Team Trump? Where do they go from here?
So they've won this preliminary motion, or it looks like that Judge Cannon's going to rule in their.
Well, let's be clear. They haven't won this preliminary motion yet. The judge has not ruled yet. And again, as I said earlier, it's kind of a moot point because they've already seen the documents. So who cares what the judge rules at this point? Let's keep watching.
Favor. I think Trump needs to file an amended Rule 41G motion under the federal rules of criminal procedure to get back all of this property, all these records that was seized by the Biden Justice Department, and he can tee up these legal issues right now with Judge Cannon in the Southern District of Florida, get this resolved by Judge Cannon and the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals instead of, some Trump-deranged Democrat judge in the D.C. District Court and the D.C. Court of Appeals. I think that President Trump and his legal team need to go on offense.
Mike, well said. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Now, I think it's interesting that he keeps talking about Judge Cannon and how that's the judge who needs to be ruling on these. Isn't it surprising, though, that Judge Cannon is a Trump appointee, and virtually every independent legal analysis I've seen has said quite clearly, as I just argued earlier, that there is no basis for the appointment of a special master under what the Trump team is asking. So it just shows how ridiculous these arguments are that are being made by somebody who, in theory, is a legitimate lawyer. Well, if you want to find out more about this executive privilege that Trump is claiming in his request for a special master, check out this video I did over here where I explain all the details about it and show why it's a bunch of BS. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.